Welcome back to Collaboration Conversations. I am Regina Partain Bergman, your co host for today, and I am delighted to have with me our guest co host, Mary. And Mary, I'm going to mess this up, Marye Lobb, right?
You got it. You got
Yay!
it.
It dawned on me, wait a minute, I forgot to double check.
All good.
It's been a while since Mary and I had talked, so I'd forgotten for sure. So I am delighted to have you as our guest co-host this morning, Mary. And folks, if you're as you're listening to this, we are live, so you will hear everything that we do and say. And if we mess up, it's all good. It's called life, right? So, Mary, would you take a moment and introduce yourself? Let our guests know who you are, a bit about your journey to get to this place, and who you serve and why.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for having me, Regina, having me back, and for bringing all of us together. I'm really just so thrilled to be here today and share this space with everyone. And thanks to all of you who are watching. So I am a singer-songwriter. I sing songs that I write, and I serve people who are open and willing to let music move them. And I write about the life lessons that I learn along the way. Some are easier than others. A lot of the songs I write, I find them to be reminders, like learn your lesson. That's time. um, so, so I love sharing that journey with those who want to be a part of it. And
Awesome.
it brings meaning to my life, so that's why.
Very good.
Mhm.
And Mary, I am thrilled to have you here today. I remember when we spoke last, we just had a really nice time, and there's so many good things you're doing in the world that we need to share all the goodness that we can that's going on in the world, right?
Mm.
So I'm delighted to have you here today. Would you introduce our guest for the day, our panelists for the day, please?
Yes, I'm so thrilled. I don't even know where to begin, but I think I'm just going to go alphabetical by first name. Does that sound okay?
Sounds great.
But I'm so thrilled to have everyone here. I think I will introduce everyone has done so many different things career-wise and has just such an impressive background. So I'll start with Ben. Ben Clark is a music producer and creative coach, and I've had the awesome opportunity to have him as a teacher and coach in my life. He's helped me learn a lot about the production world, which was super scary at first. So, but he made it a lot better. So I'm very glad to have Ben here with us today and share his knowledge and just awesome vibe.
Thanks so much for inviting me, Mary, and thanks for that great elevator pitch.
Welcome, Ben. Tell us a bit about your journey.
So, man, all I ever really wanted to do was make records, and it's been a bit of a crooked path, but that's the way life goes. And for the past couple of years, I had been working for another company as a coach and teacher, teaching musicians how to produce music and take more control over their creative output. I'm doing it on my own now. So through Song Ranch Productions, I offer comprehensive music production services, and I also offer individual coaching and instruction for folks who want to do that themselves. So you can hire me to help you with your music by doing it for you or helping you do it yourself.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Miss Mary, back to you.
Yes, let's see. Okay. Q R.
Are you singing the ABC song now?
I totally am. Okay, R. Reginald. uh, Reginald Green is, I actually know him on a personal level first. We're neighbors. And when we first met, I got to learn a little bit more about his career and what he's done with a photo and print and film background. And we recently collaborated. He actually did the cover art for my most recent single that I just released. So he's fun, he's kind, he's sweet, and just very, very thoughtful person and a great neighbor.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in the middle of a transition. I am leaving the corporate world and starting my own photography business. I've been involved in imaging, working for Kodak, Xerox, Konica Minolta, the Los Angeles Times. I had my own business for 10 years in Los Angeles also. I've always wanted to be more involved in photography, and since I've retired from the first part, I'm entering the second part. And the goal is to make meaningful images for people. So I'm having fun at that.
Love that.
I know I'm biased, but I think he's very good at that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Mary?
Okay, so next we have Stacy Steinmiller. She is a psychotherapist turned coach, so has worked for 12 years as a psychotherapist, specializing in helping folks with trauma and also doing EMDR therapy. And she has recently transitioned from therapist to coach now. So that's been really cool to see her journey, and we've collaborated. We actually just held a workshop together last week for a song of mine that talked about self-care when you're feeling heartbroken. So Stacy was just awesome to work with on that project.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess to say a little bit more, I transitioned to coaching last year because I really wanted to focus more on the empowerment aspect and really creating your ideal life, and how coming into our innate power and shedding all of our conditional beliefs from our upbringing and society and so forth. And I especially I have a soft spot for creative entrepreneurs and really how to create that reality, because we're often met with a lot of resistance everywhere we go. And so really supporting people and creating their dreams and developing the mental and emotional capacity that really requires to keep after something that really nobody else can see. So that's what really kind of lights me up.
Sounds awesome. Mary?
Yes, so next we have Tao Tao Holmes. I don't know what Tao Tao hasn't done creative or in your career, Tao Tao. I originally met Tao Tao during the pandemic when she was working for a company called Atlas Obscura. And they are a travel company that does a million different things. But she created this trip along the Erie Canal that's self-contained, and they wanted to have a musical performance for the guests to have just along the canal. So I had the awesome opportunity to do that because of Tao Tao for 2 summers and was able to perform. But Tao Tao is also a writer. I didn't know you were also a visual artist until recently. A graduate of Yale. She's done so many amazing things. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about yourself, Tao Tao, because I just kind of knew you in this work relationship, and it's great. I'm so excited to learn more about you as well.
Thank you for that generous introduction. It's cool to be part of this conversation because I feel like, especially since the pandemic, it's about like how to channel different creative interests and energies effectively. And I've been working through that in various steps. But I got to do all sorts of creative work at Atlas Obscura. It's like a media and travel company dedicated to sort of exploring the world's hidden wonders. And I started as a writer, and then I got to help build out our travel department and just build experiences that you couldn't have on your own, that really tapped into people's sort of experience and expertise, from Bulgaria to upstate New York to London to China and everywhere in between. And so that was really neat. But my favorite part of that was like the creative collaboration with people who are experts in like post-communist, like brutalist architecture, or lichen in Newfoundland. And so sort of like experience design broadly defined, but also very interested in visual art and trying to like explore those interests. So sometimes I think what I would love is to like run trips for artists so people can come along with them. And it's a chance to explore interests, sort of vibe creatively in a cool place together. That might be like the perfect combo. But yeah, so that's sort of the quick and dirty version.
Oh my goodness. I feel like I am in a room full of greats here. You are all doing such amazing things. It's such a pleasure. Mary, great job of bringing together an awesome panel. So as you know, as some of you are talking about being in transition or at the beginning of a new journey. Stacy, you've transitioned from therapist to coach. Reginald, you talked about a new beginning, all these new beginnings. How do you plan to use collaboration to grow those new endeavors? And feel free, anybody, to speak up. So. Reginald?
Okay, go ahead.
Based on the topic, I sort of looked at what I've gone through my career and the how I ended up where I was. And as I look back, one of the things I regret the most is some of the collaborations I didn't pay more attention to. I've come across quite a few incredible individuals in my life, and some of them, with a little more effort on my part, could have been more collaborative in terms of offering my skills to them and them helping me, be helping them with their skills, and them helping me with my skills. So going forward, I'm looking to collaborate a lot more, because especially being in photography, it is a collaborative, or I see it as a collaborative operation. With Mary, we went into it sort of open-eyed and tried quite a few things. Some things she liked, some things she didn't like so much. But that's to be expected with any creative endeavor with more than one person. So I look at it as being very, very important in growing, and look forward to being much more open to collaborations as I'm moving forward into this new area of my life.
Awesome. Thank you, Reginald. Ben, what were you going to say?
Yeah, that is awesome. And it kind of aligns with what I have, like my view on that. I was thinking about it this afternoon, like, oh, what am I going to say here? and it occurred to me that really I view like all of life as a collaboration. You know, like where I believe, I'll get a little woo here. Like spiritually, I believe that when we create, it's divine. You know, regardless of the subjective judgments of it. You know, but that's part of our purpose here as spiritual beings. And it's always like, even if we think we're creating solo, the experience of whatever is produced in that creativity is a collaboration. Collaboration it's woven through everything. And I think it's fundamental to like this journey as manifested beings that we collaborate and in a creative way. You know, when a chef prepares a meal, the experience of the diner is a collaboration, right? And no person's palate is identical. And there's our individual expression of life coming through in everything that we do. And kind of when we get more specific about like activities, you know, we're all in what would typically be viewed as creative endeavors. But running businesses and marketing those services and products, that's all creative as well. And it's a collaboration. I have a history in sales. like many musicians who didn't move to a major market. And I only got good at it when I realized that, like it's such a cliche, right? But it's finding that mutual benefit, finding where needs and services and products kind of overlap, and having that conversation to find out what those needs are and discover that mutual benefit. That's a creative process, because
Yes.
every decision maker is individual, is different, and there's creativity and kind of understanding each other and finding that solution. So taking that approach, we've all collaborated in ways that are really conventionally viewed as collaborations. I think, and taking a collaborative approach to kind of every interaction, I think just enhances it, makes it more enjoyable and more productive, I think. So
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Well said, sir. Stacy,
Yeah,
did you have a comment on that?
Sure. Yeah. And I really like what Ben said too about the creative process and how that's kind of, how we manifest that energy into our reality. So yeah, and that was a big part of moving from therapy to coach, is being able to be out in the world more and engage more. And not that I couldn't do that as a therapist, but there's a lot more rules and regulations and things we have to be very careful about. And that made me feel very stifled. So coming out into this, a big part of it was allowing for community and collaboration. And so within my private community, I've been having like guest speakers every month. And actually Marye was one of them early on, in which she took me and my clients through writing our own collective song together, which was really fun. And yeah, in the beginning, I was like, how am I going to find people to collaborate with and invite them on? And I've had zero trouble every month finding somebody to collaborate with. And I really see it as a space of mutual service between two people. And I just deeply trust in knowing that as I'm supporting someone and they're supporting me, that there's going to be some type of positive benefit, even if I can't see how or why. I just know that to be true. Yeah.
And be open to that, right?
Yep.
I love that. Before we go on to Tao, because I want to ask her that same question too, but before we go on, you are not the first person that I've encountered lately who's come from the therapy world into the coaching world.
Yeah.
Do you think that collaboration and those opportunities to collaborate and to work with others is a factor in that movement, in seeing people move from therapy to coaching?
It's a lot of it, I'm guessing, is regulations and because therapists can collaborate and offer a workshop to, like, there are ways to do that, but I wanted to collaborate with my clients, to be perfectly honest with you. And just because they had struggles, I didn't see them as people that are broken or not autonomous or that they can't make their own adult decisions. And I really struggled with that because I felt like I was kind of forced to see them in a way that didn't honor their autonomy. So that's more of a personal struggle. So I take that on 100%. Like, that's a Stacy thing, because I do believe there are plenty of therapists that don't have that same internal struggle like I do. But I'm guessing a lot do in some ways, but a lot of it's like politics, like pay, insurance, flex, like you can only see people in the state that you're licensed, and just like there's just a lot of, so I'm guessing that is the big exodus from therapist to coach that you've probably been seeing.
Yeah, sounds like maybe it's a bit too confining for that creative personality as well.
Right, exactly. It's like, I want to do what I want to do, and you can't stop me. And so instead of staying in the lanes of the red tape, I just thought it was easier to
You
take
just
the
jumped the
title.
line, didn't you?
Yeah, I just drop the title, drop the license, and then do what I want.
Do what you want. I love it. Freedom. Awesome. Thanks, Stacy. Tao Tao, how about you? How are you using collaboration or to grow your business?
Lots of thoughts and awesome comments here. I think I was thinking about my time at Atlas Obscura, and I love individual creative projects, but I think what gets me most excited is anything collaborative, and everything is collaborative, as Ben was saying. But something that I really enjoy is using whatever medium it is, like an experience or an illustration, to bring someone else's idea to life. I love that element of collaboration. It's like not exactly my idea. I love pursuing those, but I love taking someone else's idea and figuring out, how do we turn this into a trip? How do we turn this article into an illustration? Like that element of collaboration of like, how do we meld these things together? How do I bring your sort of spirit and expertise and creative energy to life is perhaps my favorite kind of collaboration. But I also think like within this broader environment, the whole like everyone's lonely, everyone's isolated, not everyone, but there's just generally that feeling. I feel like we're seeking collaboration more than ever. And it's so intuitive, it's so natural. So
Yes.
that makes sense. But I think it's hard. It's hard because between like physical, and I think a lot about like physical and societal infrastructure, it doesn't necessarily make it easy to access recently. So you really have to be more proactive in seeking out
Right.
and creating those opportunities for collaboration, I feel like.
Yeah. Getting outside of the box in how we think about it, which is why I love this show, because you all bring such unique perspectives to it. And I learn every time that I do this show. And so I love it because I get to incorporate your perspectives moving forward. And that makes a huge difference for me. Mary, what are your thoughts on how you're using collaboration to grow your business and to make your impact in the world?
Well, I mean, I love what everyone has said so far, and I'm a nerd, so I'm just like taking notes and hoping it might, form into a song later. But I mean, there's so many. It's so easy as a musician to collaborate. Although I do feel like learning production is me exploring more like my autonomy, and kind of how that makes me a better team member. So that's been really cool. I think just kind of recognizing what my own strengths are and where I can really contribute in the bigger picture, and also just building a team of people that I believe in, people that I want around me, people who kind of have the same vision, and just want to help our world, evolve.
Actually, I have a question for you, Mary, that I've been wondering if I can just put it out there. I know that working with you, we were working on working on your production skills as you were producing a single that you released recently.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I've been wondering actually and you outsourced the mix and master to an engineer.
I did.
And I'm wondering how like that the improved skills and better vocabulary and your deeper knowledge of production and the inner workings of things, how did that change the process when you outsourced that, when you collaborated with somebody to finish the song and get it ready for release? Can you go into that for a minute?
Yeah. Everyone's
Yeah.
following, right? Okay. I just didn't want us to get like too music nerdy, geeky, and like. But yeah, no, I think that. Oh my gosh, I think it made it so wonderful. It made it such a wonderful experience because the person who I ended up hiring to mix and master I also was done with the song. I was like, I can't listen to this anymore. I'm not objective anymore. Like, this needs to be passed, this project needs to be passed on to somebody else, like who has fresh ears and just like fresh energy. And then I just felt so incredibly grateful for his work. And we had so many wonderful conversations. Like I remember we you know, so you'll send the project on, and then there'll be like, you know, maybe 2, 3, 4 revisions. Okay. And then you'll make sure everything's right, and then you're good to go. But so there's a few conversations. He's in Toronto, and that you'll have in between. And I just remember one night, the conversation we had, I was like, I never want to forget this for like the rest of my life. Like it was, we were talking about music as a painting and as Van Gogh, and yeah, it just made the whole process very spiritual, I think.
That's awesome. I love that. I as you're talking, I'm just remembering some meetings. I'd been hired to do an EDM track, a dance track, and I was really ignorant of the specific subgenre and kind of the rules and conventions of it. So she sent me the project. It's an artist named Janica out in Saskatchewan, and I did what I would do with it instinctively, right, with my skills. And she's like, nope, that is totally not it at all. We hopped on Zoom, and I was like, oh, and it was so much better. My perspective combined with her vision is really what made it a really amazing sounding track when we were done. It just left to my own devices, it wasn't as good. Her just doing what she knew how to do wasn't nearly as good. And like the magic of two artists' perspectives combining is like that's like the essence of collaboration to me, is those different. It's like a bird when a bird is trying to figure something out and it's looking from all different angles. It's like we get closer to the truth when two or more people meet, you know.
One of the things I think I'm hearing you say too, Ben, is that the learning, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the learning process of those collaborative discussions raises us to the next level, so that the next collaboration is at an even higher level, more fulfilling, more spiritual, as we've used that word a little bit here. Those are the times when when I get off the phone and I go find my husband wherever he may be in the house and say, have I ever told you that I love what I do? No, hon, never heard it. But you're just on such a plane of energy, right? That you can't contain it. You have to share it with someone because the energy is just overpowering. Anybody else feel that way?
Exactly. It's the essence of who we are, and when we're more in touch with our essence, like it's just love, it's expansion, it's all those good things. Anyway.
Yeah. That happens to me after I do like a Zoom, even probably after this, I'll have all this energy, and I'm just going to want to, and it's weird. I'm like, because sometimes those things I've gone really long, and I'm like, I've just been talking for hours, and the next thing I want to do is call somebody and like tell them about what I was just talking about for hours. I'm like, but the energy just build up is just, it's just really powerful. And
it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you do anything to have those experiences every day, right?
Yep. This is why I'm here.
Tao, how about you? Have you had some of those experiences?
I was actually just talking to my partner about this, how it could be whatever collaboration, whether it is business or whether it's like an art kind of production, those like conversations, they stand out. And at least for the two of us, we're saying they don't happen that often. Like the kind where you leave and you just feel like so nourished and like so amped. You're just like, oh my God. Exciting things are happening. Exciting things are possible. So when they do happen, you really have to like relish it. And also like, I've been led wrong by how excited I got in some of those conversations, and I pursued it and was like, I don't feel like you have to follow that when you do like get lit up like that, because it's super special. It does feel like everything's like awakened.
Yeah. Let's talk about what you just said for a moment there, the led wrong piece. Because sometimes we start down a journey and we don't wind up where we thought we were going to wind up on it in that relationship. How do you handle that? I had one of those where it started off on a super high relationship and it deteriorated as we went along. And I think there was a factor involved that was beyond the person's control that caused that. But not every collaboration runs as smoothly as we think it's going to, right? How do you deal with that?
I've had in my processes, I've had 2 different businesses basically where it didn't end up where I wanted it to end up. The first partner ended up working for a competitor while he was working with me. I'm not exactly sure what went through his mind, and it was, you can't control it. I mean, you only can control so much, and that just went to the wayside. And the second one was we ended up buying out another partner. It was equitable, but things just weren't meshing the way that I wanted them to, and ended up buying them out and moving forward with that. So many times you put a lot of eggs in one basket trying to move them forward, and sometimes they get broken. And when they get broken, you just have to reevaluate and move on.
Yeah, I like that. I was going to say, what's your advice to people who go through one of those?
Well, learn from it, look back on it, see possibly the signs that you ignored or didn't pay enough attention to, and then take that knowledge moving forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Anybody have something to add to that? Mary, how about you? Anything to add to that?
Oh gosh. I mean, I really hope I'm getting better at this one, because but learning how to produce was a really big part of that for me, because I just didn't listen. I kind of knew, like, I would hire a producer and I just knew it wasn't right, but I wasn't really listening to myself. And then, 6 months would go by and then they couldn't deliver the project. And I'm like, well, thanks. You just wasted 6 months, or they had to have one of my like tough looking friends come with me to get the deposit back, like stuff like that, like no joke. I've got a lot of fun stories like that. So that's when I was like, I'm this 4th album. I'm learning to do this. But I think learning, what it takes makes it easier to hire out. So understanding the process is really important. And I've kind of noticed that as people hire me as well. It's like they might not have the vocabulary to articulate what it is that they want or need.
True.
Just like having the experience is really important. So I guess at this point in my life, I value all those mistakes, and hope that I just get better at listening to myself when it doesn't feel right, and also speaking up, and then not feeling bad about speaking up.
Did anybody else have a comment on that?
I think like taking a growth approach to it, like you guys are hinting at, is really critical when a collaboration of any kind doesn't work out. Like, think about the context of a romantic relationship. We've all been through that. And it's like, what did I, hopefully we're asking, what did I contribute to the disconnection, as well as what did I miss? What do I, what do I prefer? What works best for me? How do I find more enriching collaborations, whatever type it is, in the future? And like kind of just like finding a non-judgmental observational approach to it is really critical to be able to see, to take all the lessons from it that we can. I'm going through that over the past couple of months as my previous business relationship has ended, and it's like, okay, how do I avoid judgment of how this is painful, but but nobody's doing anything to me. This is just life.
Mm-hmm.
This is the web of how things go. And how do I expand the most through this experience, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like you guys alluded to, it involves looking back at the other person and observing what doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work well for us, and understanding that there's that chemistry involved. It's not, you know, it's not wrong that relationships end, but we can definitely like learn from it and benefit, and then feed that expanded knowledge to the rest of the world as we do more and more cool stuff, you know.
Yeah, very true. Stacy, did you have a comment?
I just want to like highlight the themes of, you know, listening to your gut and your intuition, and you know, as I support people in their growth and in their expansion, that I believe that becomes a requirement, like a real requirement to honor that at all costs. And then to work through whatever conditioning discomfort that we have around saying no, or saying I changed my mind, or saying this doesn't work for me anymore.
Right.
Because when we constantly make these sacrifices on ourselves, we end up getting to a point of self-betrayal, and then that really leads to a big mess. So it's better to listen to those nudges as early on as possible, even if it's uncomfortable. And I also want to highlight what Ben was saying about the experience and the growth and the journey aspect of it is important. One thing that I've really shifted is practicing non-attachment to the outcomes, and really allowing myself to be in the experience and knowing that I am being served at the highest level, even if that doesn't mean what my mind has determined it wanted as the outcome is the actual outcome. So it's this undying trust of knowing I'm always being served at the highest level.
I like that. I like that a lot. Tata, I have a question for you. We'll have you take this one first. How important is it when you're entering into a collaboration or considering entering into a collaboration with someone that you have similar core values?
It's a good question, and I just want to comment on Stacy's. I feel like that's so helpful to know that like going with your gut doesn't mean that it's gonna end up like exactly what you want. Like you can change your gut's mind, right? Like the gut can be like, I want this now, and then the gut can be like, just kidding, this isn't working out. So I feel like there's this idea if you go with your gut, it's supposed to be like all knowing, and it's supposed to be like this is the, you know, the perfect path, or this is the right thing. So that's very helpful. It's like, yeah, go with your gut. Your gut's not necessarily going to lead you down like the perfect sort of path.
Can I add to that before you go on, Tata?
Yeah.
That the relationship that I referenced earlier, collaboration. In the beginning, I knew there were some challenges and prayerfully approached it with the resultant response being, continue, keep going, you're going to make a difference. So I stayed the course, but ultimately we came to a place where it was, okay, now it's no longer continue. Now it's stop.
Yeah.
You know, you've done all you can do. It's stop.
Yeah.
And so your gut may take you in a direction, but it's not necessarily permanent.
Yeah.
Right, because that period of time served. And what happens is when it ends, the mind looks back and said, oh, I made a mistake. No, you didn't. You didn't make a mistake. That served in that time frame. Not everything's forever. Yeah.
Whatever needed to happen right then happened, and then it was time to shift courses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
but it's sort of related to your question. I was thinking about that like creative energy and sort of fuel from certain connections and conversations is I do think there's the gut, but there's also, if you are entering into a larger commitment or investment, there is that step that I can sometimes forget, which is like, okay, we have this shared like spark, but do we have like similar expectations or time commitment plans? Because you can have people, I'm very carried away by people with that like super charisma and energy, and then there's like not much that follows it up. And it's like not as reliable. So I think like core values is part of that, and part of core values is like the expectations of what you're going to put into a collaboration, because you can have like this romantic idea of what it's going to look like sort of in the themes we talked about, but then you show up very, very differently, and then that's no good for anyone. And I think that's part of the values, and the values also in terms of like what's motivating both of you to go into it together.
So one thing I hear from that is the importance of really getting to know that future collaborator a bit better before you enter into a relationship with them. Would that be true, Tao Tao?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think so. It's a balance of like, being excited and also letting yourself come down a little bit and taking it slow. So it's a tough balance. I struggle with that balance. Because once I have that energy, I just want to run with it.
Yeah, you just want to run forward with it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So then you don't want to be running backwards. Reginald, what's your thought on that, on core values, and how important it is that you share some semblance of the same core values for successful collaboration?
It's helpful. And as Tata was mentioning, it's expectations is a big part of it, is what you're expecting on the end. I've found that it's best to start before going into a big collaboration is to do a small collaboration, something where everything isn't based on it, like and you learn the person, you learn their work ethic, you learn their values, and the project has a much better chance of succeeding, I think, or the collaboration has a much better chance of succeeding if you're both on the same page in terms of a lot of things, like time commitment, as was mentioned, the effort that you're putting in, the effort that you're willing to put in. What happens when things go wrong? Are you there or are you not? And I think the best way to do that is start off with small commitments and then build up to a large one. And if it is a large one, you just have to protect yourself, thinking what could go wrong and what's my exit plan. As awful as that thing's going into something that you're really excited about, thinking about, well, what happens if things don't go right? But I tend to think of those things even now, like, oh, this is great. I'm excited. This is I'm looking forward to putting a lot into. But what happens if things go wrong? You don't want to hold back, but you don't want to do 200% either. So I go into those with like 99%, always holding back a little because you never know.
I like that idea of having an exit strategy. If this doesn't work out, I'm putting my all into it, but if it doesn't work out, this is how we can part company, part friends, part, on a good note.
And sometimes that's uncomfortable to talk about up front, but having that out on the table, you both realize that we can walk away from this. We can get out of it. While if you don't talk about it up front, you could get too entangled in it. So it's uncomfortable, I'll say, but it's helpful also, I think.
Yeah, and circumstances change in people's lives. Who they are at this moment may not be who they are 6 months from now, a year from now, in terms of circumstances that change in their lives, and that changes our priorities. That changes, it shouldn't change our core values; those should remain consistent. But it can change how we move forward.
I think there's something interesting in there. I don't know if any of you are familiar with nonviolent communication as a method. It was an amazing book that describes conflict resolution on like a global scale. But it's really useful in business and interpersonal relations. One of the things that it talks about is understanding that we really all ultimately have the same core values. Unless we're walking around without a soul in our body, we have the same true core values. When you really dive into what people are trying to do to meet their needs, it's really pretty universal. So finding that common ground is important. And then I look at it as, how skilled is this individual or group of people? How skilled are they at behaving in alignment with those core values of love and having everybody's needs met, right? People's strategies to meet those needs, that's really, like, I look at that as different from values, and that helps me remove judgment when somebody's behaving in a way that doesn't work for me. It's like, oh, it's not that they're out trying to do evil in the world, it's just that they're out of touch with how to get that done in a way that I want to be around. And so these conversations that you guys are talking about, getting to know a potential collaborator, like I value my health, but then I'll also order a 12-inch stinger and eat the whole thing. That's a Western New York thing. So a stinger is a steak and chicken finger sub. You have both on the same 12-inch sandwich. So like, I know that I'm not really great at acting in alignment with my values for my health sometimes, and finding out, getting a feel for how people, how skilled they are and diligent they are at doing that, I think is that's how I look at what you guys are talking about.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. Mary, something to chime in with there on this values piece?
Reginald, I love what you said. I think that's really very helpful. And I think it's, disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer, but I love contracts. I just find that really helpful to have those conversations up front. And everything that I learned about contracts was from my late father, who he was a business guy, like he was CFO of a company, and but he was also super down to earth. And I remember when I graduated music school, I started teaching right away. So I was working for myself, and I remember one of my girlfriends at the time, she was like, "You don't have contracts with your students? What's wrong with you?" I think she was in law school at the time, but so I started doing that, and it just really, I think that's kind of when the business took off, and I was able to have those, and my dad kind of guided me through the process at the time. And he's like, it should just be a conversation that you have up front, and then like, here's the piece of paper. But that really changed everything for me, and is really how I try to work with people, in all aspects of my business now, so that you kind of get, to have that conversation up front. And I think what you said, Reginald, it just reminded me of what Stacy said about having less attachment, because if you do talk about, well, how could things go wrong? It makes you less attached to the result, which I think just makes you a happier person in general, to be less attached to results, because it helps you be more present and focused on the current moment.
And everything that happens, it becomes a blessing when you're not that attached to the result. Then those positive results are just such a blessing, right? Yeah. They're not meeting or falling short of your expectations. They are just a blessing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome. Wow. What a great group. I love all of your insights and the things that you shared today. Let's take a few minutes and go around the room, and Mary, I'm going to have you lead this part, but we want to go around the room and have everybody give their final wrap-up thoughts about collaboration, and then your contact information. So if folks want to reach out to you, they can. So Mary, I turn it over to you.
I think just kind of have those difficult conversations, if it scares you, like, talk about it. And I think that'll really strengthen the relationship. There's something my brother said to me about, like, the strongest relationships that you have in your life are not the ones that don't have conflict. They're the ones where you talk about the conflict and you work through it. So that's my
wise brother.
Yes, he's a very wise brother. Love him. And I'm sorry, Regina, the second.
Would you take us around the room and call on each person and have them share their final thoughts? And also, will you share your contact information first, and then take us around the room and have each person share their thoughts and contact info?
Okay, great. Yes. So My contact is maryelobb.com. That's my website. You can listen to music, and my email is marye@maryelobb.com. So, and I'm on all the social sites as well. So I'm going to go backwards now. Tao, can you share some final thoughts on collaboration and a way that folks can get in touch with you?
Sure. My email is just first.last, tao.holmes@gmail is the easiest. And I just want to end on echo Reginald's again. It reminded me there's the book Design Your Life, and it emphasizes prototyping. And I think you talking about miniature versions or smaller collaborations and projects, that's just such a good reminder, because I'm always thinking big and then it self-cannibalizes because it's too much. So I feel like reminding yourself to start with small things, to prototype things first. And then I feel like that will encourage you to do more and try more things out. And I feel like everyone's open to that if they have bandwidth. So I love that. I love that reminder. I think it's easy to forget.
Tao, what was the book you just mentioned? Do you mind repeating it?
Did I mention a book?
Design Your Life.
Design Yourself.
Yeah, it's actually right under my computer, propping it up.
Design Your Life.
I wish I got yeah, I haven't finished it, but I've been meaning to.
Awesome. All right. Okay, Stacy. Can you share with us your final thoughts on collaboration and how to stay in touch?
Yeah. I guess my final thoughts are kind of, lean towards the thing that's a little bit more scary, I guess, whatever that is. So if that might be, sharing, the honest communication, if that's kind of that scary thing, do that. If it feels weird to ask for a contract or whatever, to kind of allow yourself to do that. So kind of allow yourself to go into the discomforts with the collaboration as they honor your desires, because that's going to prevent the resentment and the blow-ups that could potentially happen if you continue to self-sacrifice, in my opinion. And the non-attachment is big as well. So those are my final thoughts. And I guess the best way to get a hold of me is my website, radicallifecoach.com. And then from there, I have all my links to all my random stuff in my social medias and fun stuff like that, if you're into that.
So how do collaborations honor your desires? Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, thanks for summarizing. Yeah.
And Reginald, what are your final thoughts on collaboration and how can we stay in touch?
The thing about collaboration is that it introduces you to more people, because collaboration is going outside yourself. And if nothing else, I've learned that expression, it's not what you know, it's who you know, is so very true, because the more people you work with, the more opportunities come about. Because just as an example, Mary, a neighbor, we talked, led to a photo shoot, led to this. So every encounter, every collaboration has the opportunity of opening yourself up to even more collaborations. So that said, I'm in the process of working on my website. It's one of those things that I keep putting off because it has to be perfect. I know it doesn't have to be perfect. One of these days I'm just going to put it up. But in the meantime, rsgreen@gmail.com. That's my email. And that's RS and then green with an E. maryelobb@gmail.com.
Awesome.
Beautiful. Yeah. So even if it scares you, collaborate, because
Yeah.
it's just a kind of domino effect, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not even
it's
domino. It's more expansive than domino. Anyway.
It's like exponential.
I mean,
Yes.
yeah. I
Good
mean, every
word.
person you meet leads you to more people. I mean, here are 5 people I met through Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things I absolutely love about this show is that it is that expansion, right? So I met Mary through someone else, and then Mary has come forward. We're going to do a podcast together. We've done this show together. I extend that offer to each of you that, if you'd like to take this collaboration further, I would love that, and be able to have you be a host on the show and bring a panel of, or co-host and bring a panel of guests and be on the podcast. And and so it's just this, I as you were speaking, Reginald, the vision that came to me was like a rose or a flower blossoming, blooming out, and just those layers of the flower that you see as it opens up. And that's kind of like these collaborations. They're just layers and layers of that. And it just gets bigger and broader and more beautiful. So
I love it.
So, yeah. So I want to thank you all for being here today. This has been wonderful. Mary, thank you so much for being our co-host today.
Yes,
And
we didn't ask Ben.
Say that again.
You forgot me.
We need to ask Ben.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Ben.
He said enough.
You went first last time. That's my only saving grace. You went first last time, so I thought you hadn't gone yet. I'm sorry, Ben.
That's quite all right. First, I want to put on my coach hat, and Reginald, just take a step, put up the website, make it perfect later.
Just do it. Just do it.
Just do it.
I agree.
You'll feel so much better than worrying about it. I promise you. Sure, that will give you that one for free. I think to like a brief statement that just perfectly encapsulates collaboration and conversations around it to me is actually in the Bible, and I'm not specifically Christian anymore, but this is something that just captures, I think, the essence of what we're doing on this planet, and it's when Jesus says, "When 2 or more meet in my name, the Holy Spirit will be present." And that's the essence of collaboration to me. And beauty comes from that. Everything that we value in life comes from that. And so getting better at these conversations around it so that you can have more effective collaborations is one of the best things. I mean, I can't think of it's the best thing you can do for your life, because we're all in this together, literally. And I think one thing that's been kind of a through line in a lot of your comments is like having those conversations and identifying of like, hey, is this a good idea? Test the waters a little bit. And setting expectations so that you have a real clear agreement that you can work within. Agreement is the essence of any collaboration as well. It's like, what are we doing here, right? It's the essence of any transaction. So kind of being in touch with that. And you've also all of you have made great points about doing what's best for yourself. I think that when we show up as a collaborator that's in touch with what we want and who we are, and we're living a more aligned life, that when we take aligned action that's in our self-interest, it's of mutual benefit, regardless of how that looks to our conscious brain at the time. So I think that was great that you guys were encouraging people to trust your gut, and it's okay to say no. Stacey, when you're giving yourself away out of sacrifice or some kind of idea that, I said I had, I don't have a way out, that hesitation to speak up and take care of yourself, that's not serving anybody. I'm sure we've all done that. I'm sure everybody listening has done that in some relationship, probably a romantic one too. Those are really great models because we pay so much attention to them. So yeah, that's kind of my nutshell on how I view collaboration. It's a very broad view, I think. You can find me at songwrench.com. It's gonna be the easiest place. All my socials are linked there. There's not a ton of them, but you can email me through there as well. I've got an email list that I'm gonna start talking to people more through as well. My email, if you want to get me directly, is ben@songwrench.com. I'm available to help with any kind of music production, whether you want to learn it or have me help you with it.
Awesome. See, Ben, we just saved you for the frosting on the cake. That's all. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you all for being so wonderful today, and we thank our whoever was here listening to us. I see Lisa had put in. Oh, she lost the video a while back, so hopefully you got it back, Lisa. And if not, you'll be able to watch it later. It'll be out there on LinkedIn and other platforms. So. Thank you again, everyone, for being here today. Thank you, Mary, for being our co-host and for bringing all these wonderful people together. It's been my pleasure to meet all of you. And we will see you next time on Collaboration Conversations. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.